Okay, I think it's recording. Yes, it is. Does everybody see Jennifer's slides?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay.
All right.
Jennifer, it's all yours.
Terrific. So, a question, does everybody see my notes that I just put up on the screen? Hopefully the answer is no.
No.
Good. All right. So welcome. I'm very excited to be here today. My name is Jennifer Weaver, and I am a lead business systems analyst at Salesforce. I work in the procurement department. So actually, prior to this meeting started, someone asked why companies would use a tool like Salesforce. And we talked about how it was initially built for sales users and that the tool is really flexible. And my position actually supports that theory as well, because we use it for things that we purchase and keeping track of our suppliers and keeping track of contracts that we've got with suppliers. If we want to manage renewals, if we got our orders when we were supposed to get them, so on and so forth. So Trailhead is a great tool to help you learn about Salesforce and all of the various things that you can do with it. So as well as being a lead business systems analyst, I'm also a certified Trailhead guide, which means that I get to be really excited to share what we call Trail Heart with you, which is just love about how the Trailhead platform can help users to learn both tech skills and soft skills, and just general information to help you evolve as a user and an employee. Specifically in this session, I want to talk about what Trailhead has been doing and will be able to continue to do to help people succeed in this, quote, new normal that we're living in, which it's been almost a year, so I don't know if it's still new, but really this digital remote age that we've been thrown into. And then I'm going to walk you through a great Trailhead project that will give you a way to show off some of the skills that you've learned. So to get started, I first want to begin with reminding everybody that Salesforce is a publicly traded company, and therefore any customers looking to purchase Salesforce need to make those purchasing decisions based only on products and services that are currently available and not on anything I might talk about coming in the future. So with that, I want to take us back to the beginning of the COVID pandemic last March, April-ish timeframe, when suddenly companies were forced to remove individuals from their offices and everyone started working remotely. Even though there were a lot of companies that were already in the midst of transitioning to being a more digital company, the COVID crisis really forced that to be an imperative. Companies had to get adjusted to regional lockdowns. They needed to be able to accommodate social distancing and change their processes, events, and collaboration styles overnight. When this happened, it quickly became apparent that not everyone had the skills available to begin working in that new normal. Around the world, employees from historically in-person teams had to get comfortable with remote collaboration tools. Managers used to leading by example found themselves challenged to empower their teams from a distance. And companies that were primarily paper-based suddenly found a need to digitize their information in order to get it to team members who were no longer in the office. With all of this change came employee stress levels that were previously unimagined. New skills were needed to address each of these areas, and those needs continue to evolve as the pandemic wears on. And that's where Trailhead comes in. Our mission is really to help you reskill your teams, go digital fast, and support yourself and your employees' well-being as we move through whatever the world throws at us. Now, those of you who are already Ottawa community members probably are familiar with this, but for everyone who's new, Trailhead is a free gamified learning platform where everyone, no matter your race, gender, location, socioeconomic situation, orientation, or physical abilities, is empowered to learn the skills that are needed to be successful and thrive in the tech workforce. It doesn't matter if those skills are Salesforce skills, business skills, tech skills, soft skills, or even partnering skills. There's something in Trailhead for everyone. Did you realize that we have over 800 badges and 42 different credentials, resume-worthy credentials that businesses are hiring for, all within Trailhead? And of course, part of the magic of Trailhead is the community that we're all experiencing at this moment. This is a place where you can connect with other users. You can find opportunities from mentorship to employment. And you can ask questions. Hey, I'm stuck on this trail, or I don't understand this concept, and people are willing to just jump out and pay it forward. To give an example of how Trailhead has been benefiting users through this pandemic that we've been living in, since March of last year, we've experienced this incredible growth in the use of our platform. We've had a 60% increase in badge owners overall just within our own company, Salesforce. And because Trailhead is dynamic, we're always adding new relevant content, including content needed for success with the way the world works today. So I'm excited to get to show you some new trails that we've got out there that you're welcome to jump out in and try anytime in the future. When you get the slide deck from Kevin, you'll have hyperlinks to each of these trails, and you're welcome to go check them out. So the first trail I'd like to talk about is Skill Up for the Future with Trailhead. And this is primarily for those users who are brand new to Trailhead, and it will give you an introduction to the platform, and then also give some guidance around the Trailhead community, some career guidance, some information on mentoring, and even help you build your first app that you can use to track the studies that you do as you're learning more and more about Trailhead. Then we can help you dig deeper with trails that will help guide your company on the digital transformation. Not only does Go Digital Fast introduce you to Customer 360, which is our latest project, but it also touches on sales, service, and marketing cloud basics, digital transformation, flow basics, and even Einstein bots, just by starting on this one trail. And if you'd like to develop your virtual strategy, learning more about how to manage virtual meetings, collaboration, and digital whiteboarding skills, check out the Develop Your Virtual Strategy trail. We've even got trails that will help you build your leadership, remote productivity, and leadership skills. You'll learn productivity and self-motivation skills, and even some empathetic and inclusive leadership practices that will help you with your management skills by following these trails. And if you work for a company that is planning their reopening strategy, check out this trail, which will talk about work.com, which was released earlier last year, really focused around how companies can begin considering bringing their employees back to the office. And we've got a module on this trail that talks about strategies to keep in mind as you're looking at reopening. Now, if you're interested in any of these trails and you want to find all of them in one place, you can just go to sfdc.co/new normal, and that will take you to a trail that actually includes all of those other trails I just mentioned. But as I said in the beginning, each of these is hyperlinked from the deck that Kevin is going to provide. So that is my quick and dirty discussion about what Trailhead can do for you related to COVID. And I really wanted to keep that at a very high level for those of you users who are already familiar with Trailhead, to let you know that these are probably some things you didn't even know were out there. It's new content that was developed specifically for the world we're living in today. But also for those of you who are new to Trailhead, to let you know kind of the vast array of information that we'll cover, both from technical skills to leadership skills. And there is also a module in Salesforce or in Trailhead about resume writing and interviewing skills. So if you're looking at building up your resume for job openings, there are other things on Trailhead that may help you as well. So as I've talked about all of these ways that Trailhead can help companies navigate and skills that you can learn, you may find that you want a location where you can show off these skills that you've gathered. So the next thing I want to do is walk us through a Trailhead project which will help us build our own personal portfolio on the Salesforce platform that you can share with anyone on the World Wide Web. Before I jump into that, are there any questions? Okay, well, I will see if I can get the system to let me share. I'm going to actually, I may have to stop sharing because I'm going to split my screen. So just a moment. Actually, I'll tell you what, I'll start here and then I'll split it. So can you all see that I am in Trailhead? Perfect.
Jennifer, sorry, Jennifer, I've got one question. Would it be best for all of us to have our Trailhead account open on a screen and follow along?
It is, you are certainly welcome to do that if you'd like. You're welcome to follow along. And if not, I'll walk through and you're welcome to just watch me as well. And you can always come back and try it yourself.
Okay, great, thank you.
You bet. So right now I'm on the Trailhead homepage. And for those of you who are just looking to get there, you can just type trailhead.com in your address bar and it will bring up the homepage. Homepage will look a little bit different for everyone because it's going to start by showing the badges that you have in progress and then other things that you may have shown interest in the past. So it might be a little specialized for each of us users. For those of you that are especially new to Trailhead, we have a variety of things here. You may have heard me mention trails and also modules. And the thing I'm going to show now is a project. So the way Trailhead is put together is individual learning bites, called modules. Each module can get you a badge. And I mentioned earlier in the presentation that we have over 800 different badges that you can learn and earn. So those are each modules. And modules are occasionally grouped together into guided learning paths that we call trails. Now, each of the trails that I mentioned on the slide deck includes multiple modules or badges within that trail guide, within that trail. Users also can make their own trails by grabbing modules and trails and pulling them together and organizing them in custom trail mixes. And then lastly, the projects, which is what we're going to look at today, are a type of module that walk you through and really kind of hold your hand and guide you on steps to take to build something on the Salesforce platform. So with that introduction, I'm going to look for personal portfolio, helps if I can spell. And it will bring up a list of anything filtered based on what I typed at the top. So the project we're going to do today is build your personal portfolio on Salesforce. So we'll click that. And mine has green checks because I've already walked through it a couple of times, but that's okay. I will go ahead and do the demonstrations again in a new setup so you'll be able to see how it goes. As you are completing this, if you're working with me side by side, each time you complete a section, you will get a little check mark. Now you can see that this project is built on 4 individual sections, and each section is estimated to take approximately 15 minutes or a total of an hour of our time. Now I don't have an hour, so I don't plan to take you through the entire setting today, but I'll walk you through how it works and then I'll show you a completed portfolio that I put together so you can see what you can create with no other technical skills. And I should probably point out that I went to college to be a veterinarian. I have no tech background in my history. After vet school, or well, I didn't go to vet school, but after college, I worked as a contract administrator and I just kind of fell into Salesforce at one of my jobs and found that I loved it. And now I work at Salesforce. So that's just to go to show you that anyone can do anything if you put your mind to it and you work with Trailhead. All right, so let's get started. The first thing we're going to do is click on the first section or create a portfolio site. And this is what Trailhead looks like when you get into it. So it will give you the objectives and then walk you through some information. And this is what you're going to learn as you go through. In a project, it will actually have steps of what you need to do. Click here, type this, so on and so forth down the page. And then at the very bottom of a project, I'm going to retake this. It will ask you to verify the steps that you took while doing that part of the module. In this case, they want you to do all of these things in your own hands-on org. So right here, it lists an org that is currently available to me. If you've never worked in your own Trailhead playground before, you can create one just by clicking in this box. So I'll back up again. I just went to this box here right next to the launch button and clicked. And I have a list of my existing portfolio or playgrounds that I can choose to work from. Or I could come down here and click Create Playground. Now this takes a few minutes to set up a new playground, and in the interest of time, I've already gone ahead and created one so that I can walk you through how this will work.
I got a question, Jennifer.
Yes.
So if you have an existing playground and
you can use that.
You can use that. Okay.
You can absolutely use that. There are, and that's a great question, Kevin. There are Trailhead modules that specifically ask you to use a brand new Trailhead playground. And if that's the case, it will tell you that in this box that you need to create a new playground. Since this one doesn't say that, you could use an existing one. So I'm going to go ahead and launch my user group portfolio playground. And it's opening in a new tab.
Jennifer, I have a quick question I was hoping you could help me with that came up this morning. Is there a limit to the number of playgrounds you can create?
I have not run into that limit yet. Okay. Now, playgrounds do get outdated if you haven't used them for a certain period of time. Sometimes they will, Salesforce will send you an email to let you know that you haven't logged in recently and that they plan to close out your Trailhead playground if you want to do that.
Okay, thank you.
You bet. All right, so this is what my new playground looks like. I'm going to come back to this. And what I'd really like to do is show these side by side. So I'm going to see if I can get the screen to let me do that. And I don't know if I'm going to be so lucky. Let me do a new share. Okay. Can you see two screens? There should be a window on the right that is giving me grief that says, "Welcome, Jennifer." And then the window on the left that is still my Trailhead.
Yeah, we see it.
Perfect. All right. Maybe we'll get lucky after all. I have found it's very helpful. This is kind of in my way. There we go. It's very helpful to have your screens open side by side when you're working in Trailhead, simply so that you can see the steps while you're working in your playground. Okay, so now I'm back to the top. I've got my playground on the right. And we're going to start with creating a personal portfolio. So the reading asks us why we would want to create a portfolio. And to summarize, basically, we want to do this so that we can show the world all of the things that we've been learning. Frankly, a lot of information doesn't always fit on a one-page resume, and it doesn't show your whole person. So this is where a personal portfolio can be very helpful for us. We've already gone through this first step of launching your playground. And that's what I've got over here. And now we're going to be working with communities and Community Cloud. And by the way, this is something that sometimes comes up when we're working with Marketing Cloud or other parts of Salesforce, where we want to have a community that allows users from outside our company to be able to access information from within our company. And we only want to share certain pieces of information. We can do that through a community. So this module is going to give us an opportunity to learn how we can work with Community Cloud. So we're going to get started by turning on communities, and the project will walk us through what we need to do. So in our playground, we're going to click the gear icon, which takes us to setup. And then in the quick find box here on the left, we're going to go to community settings. Now within this box, it says that we want to mark enable communities. And then we have to select a domain name. Each domain name needs to be unique. So what we will do is type in a name that is relevant to us, because this is a name we're going to put forth to the public. And in this case, I've put my last name and the beginning of my first name, and I'm going to check availability to make sure that it's out there. You'll either get success that this name is available, or you'll get an error that says it's not available and you'll have to choose a new name. And then I click save.
Jennifer,
Yes.
Do you have to own the domain for that name?
You do not in this case, because you're making a develop it. So your domain is going to be a combination of whatever you type here, plus developer, plus edition. So it's, I mean, you certainly wouldn't want to put ESPN-developer-edition. But I would highly recommend, and as the module recommends, using your name. Whatever you do put in here, you can't change it once you hit OK or once you hit save. So you'll want to pick a name that you're happy with keeping, because in order to change it, you would have to call Salesforce to do so. Okay, so it is saving. And I did get this dialog box. I don't know if it popped up on the share, but it asked me to open my page in a new tab. There we go. Okay, so I want to open it. Okay, so now I have communities available as something that I can work with. All right, so now I want to click a new community, and we're going to actually create that community that people external to our Salesforce org can log into. So it's taking it a minute to spin up. When you go to create a community, there are already some templates available that you can choose from, or you could choose to build your own from scratch. In following this module, it says to select the customer account portal template. So that's what we'll do. And as soon as I clicked on it, it gives me some information about that template, and then gives me the Get Started button. So step 3 says click Get Started. And I need to enter the name of my community and a URL. Following the steps, and this is important, you want to make sure that you follow any steps that it gives you in red font, because at the bottom, when it goes to verify if you've actually done what it told you to do, it is checking for the specific wording that you provide, so, or that it told you to provide. So my first name is Jennifer and my last name is Weaver. And then my URL is going to be portfolio. So you can see step 5 says to put portfolio. And then I want to click create. Now I've done this again in a different playground, and I used the exact same naming to get it checked, and it all worked out. I can do the same naming again in this playground because they're on different domains. All right, so this brings us to the community workplace. And if we scroll down on the project page, it talks about a little bit of the features that you can do on your workplace page. Okay, at the bottom of this section, it gives us several resources that we could dig into if we wanted to get some more detail or background about what we're doing. But we're just kind of grinding through the steps right now. So I'm down here and I'm going to complete or verify this step. So I'll click, whoops, I already launched it. I didn't want to do that. I'll click verify step. So now what it's doing is it's going, the Trailhead is going out to this community that I've developed, and it's checking to make sure that I've created the community that I told it to create. And if I'm lucky, there we go. It gave me a pop-up saying that I completed that section. So now I can move on. step 1 was create the portfolio site. Step 2 is customize your site. So again, it starts off by giving us a little bit of description about what we want to do in this particular section. Here, we're going to talk about how we can take this community that we just created and make it custom for us so that each one of us could have our own individual communities. The first thing that we want to do is create an image that represents us. So it could be a picture of yourself, or it could be something about your personality. I love horses and mountains, so I might want to have a picture that's a background of mountains, and I can do all of that here. So for the purposes of this module, it is telling us the details of an image that we should use. And they've actually given us a portfolio header image that we can borrow from them. And that's actually what I'm going to do here. I have downloaded the image that they have for us. And after we've got our picture available, we're going to follow the steps to create a heading for our portfolio. So I'm already in my community workspace, and I want to click on the builder box. And I'm not interested in the little pop-ups, but they will give you a pop-up walkthrough if you'd like. In this case, it says to hover over the existing image and click Rich Content Editor. And then I want to edit the content. And now that I'm in the edit mode, I can highlight the picture and click the delete key. So as you can see, we just got rid of that image that was in the background of our screen. And then I want to use the image icon, which I may have to make my screen big so that we can see it. And I'm going to upload an image to use. So I'll click the upload image button. And here is my portfolio header. And there's the image that they gave us. So again, this is the image that came directly from the Trailhead module itself. So it's now here. If it doesn't span across the whole page, you could add some text. So in this case, I think I will start typing over here. Oh, come back here. We will edit content. My online portfolio. And we can change the font size. Let's go big here. Of course, it helps if it stays highlighted. Live demos are always fun, aren't they? It did it again. Okay. Well, if it won't let me do it there we go. We could even go bigger this time. And we could change the font color if we want to. Again, there we go. Okay, so those are some things that we could do there. And after we've put our work on the screen, it says to go ahead and click preview, which is what this little eyeball says. And if I had my screen all the way across the page, it would actually say preview on the screen. But here I'm in the preview mode where I can see what it would look like if somebody came and joined into my page without any of the little help boxes that I had. If I go back to Builder, now you can see I've got some other items on my screen. Okay, so back to the module. This is what they created. And now we get to choose some colors that we want to have with our portfolio. So again, this is all custom, so it's whatever interests you. In the Experience Builder theme panel, which is this, we want to select colors. And let's see what they're guiding us to do next. They want us to change the colors for action color, detailed text color, and page background color. So the action color right now is blue. Let's make it purplish, pink purple, okay? So there's my action color. A detailed text color, let's go with maybe a deep green. And then page background color. Let's make that, I have no idea how this is gonna look, but We're being creative. So, oh, that's awful. Let's not go there. Let's go with a cool blue. Okay, so we've done those. And then we also want to review the language options. So again, in this bar on the left, we are going to navigate to settings and languages. And we're going to leave English as our default language, but you could certainly choose a different default or to add other languages to your page. Okay, and from here, we're going to preview again. So I'll come back up to the preview button. And now you can see that my portfolio background is this teal blue color that I chose, and my font is this red, and I don't have any action buttons on the screen just yet, but those are coming. So we're going to go back to Builder, and now it says to publish. So in this case, publish is this little guy right here. And we get a pop-up that tells us that it'll take a moment before it'll show up, but we'll publish the button or click the publish button. And when it's done doing its work, I get a pop-up that says, got it.
Jennifer, while we're waiting, can you explain a little more about the languages? Does that mean that you can have multiple languages on your portfolio?
It absolutely does, as far as I know. So part of this has to do with your deep understanding of communities. And I don't have a super deep understanding of setting up multilingual community pages. But just based at looking at what is available here, that does appear to be the case. And the nice thing about doing this in a Trailhead module and a playground is that you can play with it. So you could add 2 or 3 languages and see what it looks like when you come to the page. Maybe you'll get an option to choose the language that you want to use. Or you could dig into more Trailhead modules specific to communities that will probably give you additional information.
And while she's talking about playing with it, the other big positive behind these trailheads is if you decide that you want to take Salesforce as a career and you want to be certified, you could use these trailheads to use and get ready for your certification exams.
Absolutely.
The orgs to do it.
That is absolutely correct. I have 6 certifications, and I highly recommend tracking or doing the modules out here to get hands-on experience. A lot of the certifications are not just book knowledge, but are also how to apply the information in different scenarios. And you really can only get that level of knowledge by working in the platform. And that's a great thing to do with these playgrounds because you can't break anything. You don't have to worry about real data. Okay, so we got through that section. There are just 2 sections left. We're going to quickly walk through how to add pages to your site, and then I'll show you what my portfolio looks like so you could see what the finished project can be. So we are going to add pages to our site simply because we started this project knowing that having everything on one page on a resume doesn't really define us and doesn't give potential employers a great idea of who we are, especially if you're looking for a job that relates to technology in any way. It would be a great boost for you to show a potential employer that you took the time to build your own portfolio online. You know, that shows some real drive to get out there and actually use the technology. So in this case, we are going to add 3 pages to our portfolio. We're adding an About Me, an Experience, and an Education tab. To do this, we're going to create our pages by getting out of that, going here, and at the so I just clicked the down arrow next to the gear, and at the very bottom, I'm going to click New Page. And I get a choice of standard page or object pages, and I'll just click on standard page. And according to the instructions, I want to choose flexible layout. If you were building this community for other purposes, there would be other layouts you could use as well. And we'll click next. And we're going to call this page About Me and click Create. Okay. So Salesforce and Trailhead are being very nice. They keep giving us lots of little pop-ups to help us guide through. And in the interest of time, I'm just closing them out, but you are more than welcome to read those and they will teach you about new things that come out. All right, so I've created this and now I've just got this big blank page. It's got an empty header, a header bottom, one column, and a footer. So at the top of the page, you can see now that my main tab says About Me. And I want to repeat those same steps to create an experience and an education page. So I'm going to come back to this down tab and go to New Page, Standard, Flexible, Next. And this one is going to be Experience. Oof. And then I will do one more. And this one will be the exact same design, but I'm going to call it Education. And click Create. So now we're going to help our users with navigation through those pages. So I'm going to come back to my home page. And I'm going to go to Navigation and Default Navigation. I want to edit my default navigation. So it says click the X next to Support to remove it. And then I want to add a menu item. And my new item is going to be Community Page. And the drop-down list, I want to choose About Me and make it publicly available. Okay. And let's see, and then do that again, and then click Add. Oh, I forgot to give it a name though, didn't I? So this is the About Me page. Okay, now this one is going to be my education page. And so I'm going to go back to this list and find education and make it publicly available. And then I'm going to add one more, and this is my experience page. So I'll choose the Experience tab, and click Publicly Available, and then click Save Menu. Now I can get out of there. And I want to preview. Well, I don't see my buttons below, but I should. I think I'm feeling myself being a little rushed because I know on time, so I may have missed something, but I'm going to jump over and show you what mine actually looks like so that you can get an idea of what this page could be. Basically, to finish out this section, you would go through the rest of this page, really just preview and publish, and then you would have the system check to make sure that you did everything you were supposed to do. And the final part is just to clean up some of the things that are on your page and make sure it's published for all the world to see. And then you can share your tab out with other users. So I am going to try to get away from that. This is what my page looks like. So this is my real online portfolio that I created through following that module. And you can see this is what those tabs are supposed to look like. I have a feeling that if I had refreshed my page on the previous screen, they would have all shown up. You can see now I've got my online portfolio, my own image. This is the background color that I chose. And at the bottom of the screen, I've got links to my Trailhead profile and LinkedIn. These would take you directly to my pages, and they are part of the last section of that project. So on my About Me page, I am not super creative, so I've just put some information on here. If I was a lot more artistic or had a lot more time, I'd probably put some colorful backgrounds, add some columns, and really, maybe some personal pictures of my family or vacationing or something that would help people to get a better understanding of who I am. And then information about my education. Again, not very creative. So take this as a base idea of what you could do with your education information and jazz it up. Choose your own colors, change your fonts. You saw that we could change font size and color. You can make it bold. You can use numbered and bulleted lists. You can add images. And then on the experience tab, I've actually copied in an image of my resume so that if I wanted to put this out, and this is an outdated resume, by the way, but if I wanted to share this link then with any potential employers, or maybe put it on my Trailhead page and put it on my paper resume that I give to companies, maybe share it on LinkedIn, then people who are potentially looking for me as an employee could see my portfolio and find out more about me to know if they want to go any farther with me. Are there any questions for me?
Jennifer, with the shared link,
yes.
Did you show us how to retrieve the link, or is it just simply the link above there?
So actually that is part of this module.
Okay. Oh, okay.
So you would actually get to it
after.
Yes, you would get to that on that third page. My little Zoom bar is causing me grief. But yes, on the very last page here where it talks about
there's a public
cleaning up and publish your site.
Gotcha.
Because you do actually, right now, my site is available to users through the community, but there will be a step at the bottom of this page that takes you through how to make your site public.
Perfect.
And then you get your actual link so that you'll be able to share it.
Excellent.
So that's a great point. And then once you get all the way to the end, and you talk about being able to share your link and places you can do with it, you can go ahead and verify your step being complete, and you will get a badge for completing this project.
Excellent.
So Jennifer, once you've completed this portfolio or this org, you can use that for your own personal use?
Absolutely.
So
you can absolutely use this for any playing building that you want to do that does not have to be on Trailhead. This is now your own personal sandbox.
But can you use it in real life though? Like, so companies can come to that org and...
I have used it in real life for keeping track of, for instance, you may have read, I have 3 horses and 5 cats and 2 dogs and 2 teenagers. So I don't know which is worse, but I have used one of my Trailhead playgrounds to keep track of vet bills and who's due for vaccinations and things like that. So you can use it for your own personal purposes as well. You cannot use it, or you are not supposed to use it for licensing purposes for business.
Sorry, I would like to add just playground orgs are same as developer orgs, and they are yours. If you use, condition is you must use it at least once per year to stay yours. Otherwise they will delete it. You get notified about this.
That's correct.
Yeah.
I'm a bit confused. This is in the playground like we do with the Trailhead, but how do I want to make sure people outside of my playground can see my profile?
You bet. So on the very last step of the module that we did, so build your personal portfolio, the very last step that we did not do during this call talks about how to publish your site. So if I...
Okay, so the site, but will still be part of a playground. So
that is correct.
So if I don't refresh it after so many weeks, it will get expired.
If you don't log into it, I believe it was once a year, you will get an email that says, and I was thinking it was once every 6 months, but it may be once a year. You'll get an email from Salesforce that says that you have not logged in this period of time, and that they plan to delete your sandbox or your playground if you don't log in. So that will remind you to go out and log into your playground, and then it will be good for another 6 months or a year, whatever that time frame was.
And then everybody can see it as well. Great.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
You bet.
Jennifer, I'm sorry, if somebody else asks a question, go ahead, ask the first.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I just wondering because when I was just trying to create my profile, online profile, it asked me to choose a name for your URL. Is it something different that's shown from that one, or these are the same thing? Or I mean, because I remember that while you were creating this playground, you choose another URL, but I put a specific URL while creating my online profile for. So what are the difference between these two? I'm a little confused for this part. Does it make sense?
Are you talking about when you were entering a community name and URL for creating your community?
Yes.
Okay.
For the first time.
Yes. So all you need to do here is put in your first and last name, and it will take your name and put that into a URL that it has already established to show that it's a developer sandbox or a playground. And then it just asks you to add portfolio at the end. So there will be a box on your screen where you'll type your name, and then there will be another line that will show the URL and a forward slash, and then a box that says your optional URL, and that's where you would type the word portfolio, so that it will look like this when you're all done.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
If anyone tries to go through this module and finds yourself stuck, you're certainly welcome to reach out to me. My information is on the slide deck. But beyond that, if you go through and you try to verify that you completed a section and you get an error that says that it can't find what you did, go back through the steps one by one and make sure you typed in exactly the way they wanted you to type it. Sometimes I get in a hurry and I'm, oh, I need to just save this picture. Okay, and I save it. And I didn't realize that the module told me to save it with a specific name. I think in this case, for the picture, it wants us to call it portfolio underline header or something to that point. It's not even on this page. So it's very picky when it comes to verifying that you did the steps correctly. You need to make sure you follow them word for word. And that is a place where I've found myself get hung up before.
Jennifer, I have a question.
Yes.
So if you spend all this time and make your org be exactly what you want, and then you say, you know what, I really want it now, make this my org, and I'm going to pay Salesforce for it. Do you have to redo everything, or can they take one of these development orgs and give it to you for a paid org? You know what I mean?
I know what you mean. And I want to say that it's the second option, but I honestly don't know. I would love to believe that you could turn your developer org into a paid org by working directly with Salesforce, but I don't know the answer to that. Do you?
Nash, no, I don't. I'm thinking of doing this. Nash, do you know about that?
As I'm aware, there is no option doing like this, but you can use other tools that are available to move everything from your developer org to your new official paid org and save yourself of doing things again.
Like an ant migration tool? I've been reading about that, yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
Well, I could think what you could probably do too is, well, I'm going to get into a lot of detail, but you can create a package, unmanaged package, and then import it that way.
That would be my second choice.
This is Mike. Well. This is Mike. One thing though is I don't think you can make packages in a sandbox, in a playground. So But you have, honestly, if you're only doing the level of this kind of setup, then it's probably quicker than any of those tools just to remake it.
Agreed. Yeah. But if you've been using it to manage some of your personal things and you've got a whole bunch of data and other things in it, then, I mean, it depends on what level you've taken your sandbox to before you decide to go with a paid org.
Well, I did have, during the city election last, 2 years ago, my nephew was running as a city councilor. And I said, well, you know what? I said, I can help you with your thing. I can set up a Salesforce org for you. And we did it through the dev org. But when we found out he had way too many records and you couldn't use it, then I had to actually redo it and then copy all the data. So it became a lot bigger of a job.
Mm.
But make you professional, Kevin.
Yeah.
That's right. It was great practice.
Exactly. No, that's very true. Very good practice.
So I have one question. We might have talked about, hey, this is Shanti, by the way. After you put together your about me and your experience and education and everything in org, how easy is it for, if you want to give it to the employer, the link for them to look at it? Is it doable?
It is very easy, yes. So the last step of the project will talk you through how to make it publicly available. Oh, okay. And then you will get your own URL that you can copy and put anywhere you like, and anyone can click that URL and go directly to your page.
Okay. So only thing, thank you for that. And only thing is, it might be available for a year or something at the most, and then you might have to log in back again to make sure if you want to update it.
Absolutely. And realistically, you'll probably want to log in regularly anyway to continue to modify and update additional information as the year goes on. For instance, the resume that I have posted on mine is outdated. So, you know, I may want to go in and put a new resume or add some, maybe I want to add a new page. You know, maybe you want to have a page that truly highlights just your Salesforce experience. You can follow the same steps that we took through the project and make new pages with other customizations and really tinker with what the tool will allow you to do.
Awesome. I have my paper resume, and after looking at it, I'm gonna make it like what we've talked about now, and I'm excited about it. Thank you so much.
Good for you. That's wonderful.
Jennifer, I'm so impressed. I'm going to do the same thing.
Thank you all for joining. I appreciate it.
Any other questions for Jennifer?
Jennifer, this is great. At the college, we are looking for ways to improve our interview or job hunting process constantly, and obviously with our current virtual situation, we are looking for digital means to represent our skills and attributes. And what you've done is you've shown us yet another way to do so, using Salesforce technology, which is perfect. It signals that we are kind of in tune with some of the functions of Salesforce as a student, right? Coming out, graduating with a program. So this is fantastic. It just adds to our digital tool belts at the college. So I'm happy to keep practicing building a digital portfolio and hope to spread this to the students as well as a skill.
That's wonderful.
So thank you again. And just back to the link. I know it seems to be a common question that's popping up.
Sure.
You did mention that we can update that link or the contents within the link.
Yes.
Have you? Okay, so that's a kind of a thing that we could.
You can absolutely update your content. Absolutely. Perfect. And you'd follow the same steps that we did. I mean, you don't have to go recreate the community or anything, but once you're in your page, you can go to your builder section and click on it and make changes. Absolutely.
Just freshen it up. Okay, that's an important feature. And the ease of, have you tried viewing it on a mobile device and different screen sizes?
That I have not done. I do know that Salesforce communities are available on mobile devices and for different sizes. So I would be interested in seeing how that may morph, and there may be settings as well. I think I saw a setting that said make it mobile available, and I just didn't use it.
If I can just interject here, when you're in Builder, there is all 3 form factors available for you for preview. You can default is desktop view, but you can change it to mobile views like iPad or phone, and it will tell you exactly how it's going to look like on those.
Oh, perfect.
Perfect.
Yeah, thanks, Nash. That's great.
And again, with just the joy of doing it on a Trailhead playground is that you can mess with it. You can mess it up. You can, try to click this button and see what happens. And that's just kind of the beauty of being in there. It will tend to spark more interest in wanting to learn more. And you'll find yourself doing all sorts of Trailhead modules that you never dreamt of.
Jennifer,
go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I'm going to go ahead and type my contact information in the chat page or in the chat as well, just so everybody can have that. If you do run into questions on this particular project, I'm happy to help. Or again, you can post them to the community and other users will jump in as well.
So Jennifer, in your background, I see some of the Salesforce characters. For the students, can you sort of explain what Salesforce logic is with these characters and the 2 characters that you have there? What was it? Why did you pick those characters?
Sure. So behind my left shoulder is Cody the bear, and behind my right shoulder is Cloudy. He's sort of a goat. He's a goat.
Yeah.
So Salesforce, we want tech to be fun. I mean, we believe that it's not some stuffy shirt, suit and tie kind of thing, although we do those things. But, we've got these different mascots that represent different parts of our ecosystem. So Cody, for instance, represents our adventurous coding users and those developers who go out and try to build these new things that we're using just with clicks. So he's kind of our evangelist relating to code, and I picked him because I started actually learning Apex coding through Trailhead last year, and I'm really interested in it. I have a lot of work to do on it, but it's kind of the path that I'd like to follow in my future. So Cody's kind of my best friend. And then we have our Cloudy the goat, who really represents the Salesforce ecosystem as a whole. He's part of the Trailblazer community and really just friendliness and bringing everybody together. And so they're here with me in the cabin, bringing us, bringing joy.
Thank you very much, Jennifer. That was an excellent presentation.
Thank
Michael, can you stop sharing, please?
I think that I did.
And Michael, can you talk so I can find you in my whole slew of... Oh, there you are. No, I don't.
Yeah, I don't think that you don't need to make me a presenter for me to share.
Oh, is that right? Okay, go ahead. See. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. Here we go. Okay, let me. Except now my stuff got rearranged here. Okay, let me go over here. Okay. So let me present. All right, hey everybody. So thank you for letting me present to you, and I'm going to give you a sort of a dry run of a presentation that I'm going to give at Nonprofit Dreamin', which is on Thursday. So please interject if you have any questions. If anything isn't clear, I'd rather the conversation happen while we're doing it rather than waiting to the end. Plus, it'll help me understand what it is that people need to see. So, and it ties in, this presentation actually ties in very well with what Jennifer just went through in the Trailhead, because I'm going to work with communities. So I'm going to show you, I'm going to be in our sandbox, but I'm going to show you a real working community that we have for the National Aquarium that we set up specifically due to COVID. Like everyone, we had to close down for a little while at the beginning part of last year. And part of our reopening protocols was that we needed people to make reservations because we didn't want too many people to come, because we had to really strictly limit how many people would be in the building. And you know, we didn't want them to have to wait outside from a customer service perspective or from a safety perspective. So we wanted to make sure that people had a reservation where they knew what time they could get in and they could go right in. I am the Director of Business Intelligence at National Aquarium, and I am the co-leader of the Baltimore, Maryland Administrators Group. We happen to meet on this coming Wednesday. So if anybody wants to look us up and come to us, it won't be this topic. You won't have to hear me give a presentation, but you're more than welcome to attend. So here I'm going to go through on this presentation at a very high level of what we're trying to accomplish. Then it's mostly going to be a live demo that we can log into and take a look. So in the agenda here is I'm going to go through our data model, the flows that we built, community features, get through that. So why do we need reservations? I kind of just spoke to it a little bit, but we've always had timed entry for general admission guests. So in case you don't know, I took the slide out for time. We're at the National Aquarium. So, you know, we have over 20,000 animals on exhibit. You know, the organization does a lot of things other than run the museum, so to speak. We do a lot of conservation and area cleanups and animal rescues worldwide. But specifically, we're talking about here is folks who want to come visit our aquarium. We've always had timed entry for general admission, but members and other sort of constituents have basically been able to just show up whenever they want. One of the member benefits is that you can just arrive whenever you want and get right in without having to have a specific time. But because of COVID, we've had to change that. And so we were asking our guests, our members, to make reservation. So this application that I'm going to show has a few other uses besides just members, but we're going to focus on members predominantly. So they came to me about 3 weeks before we were going to reopen and said we needed to make something so that we can make this work. What can we do? And this is kind of what we put together. So we needed to allow members to be able to validate their membership and create a reservation that stays within their member benefits. So different membership levels allow for different number of guests to come at once. The expiration date on the membership is also relevant. We don't want members to be able to make reservations past their membership expiration date. We also wanted other constituents to be able to validate how they validate. There's a couple different ways we can do that. We needed to be able to enforce capacity limits in real time. And we didn't want to create a bottleneck at the door to have our guest services folks be able to validate that folks had a valid membership. On the platform side, I knew that we needed to build it quickly. We needed to manage multiple capacities for different types of programs. And we needed the ability to change. I mean, you know, if you think back, you know, 6 or 7 months ago, you know, we didn't know how long COVID was going to last. We didn't know how long it was going to be here. We didn't know if we were going to be using this for a month or 3 months, or now pushing a year, we'll probably be using it. So we needed to be able to be flexible. And we knew that Salesforce would be the platform that would allow us to make those changes fairly quickly. So this might be, for folks who don't know Salesforce or database, this might be a little bit involved, but I'm going to try to keep it very high level. So here is the basic data model that we created on the inside for the community. We have the dates that we're going to be how we're going to be open, and then beneath that, as a child of that, are the time slots, because each day has, you know, different time slots based on what hours we're open that day. And then over on this side here, we have the account, which is we already had through existing information who was a member, what their membership number was, and their membership level and all that stuff. So that data was already in Salesforce for us. So these three are the real new ones. And then this middle one is really what it's all about, which is the reservation, which is the combination of your account and the time slot that you're choosing.
So
go ahead.
Mike, can you back?
Yes, sir.
So if on the reservation, if you're bringing 4 people, do you mention somewhere on that reservation how many people are, or you don't care about how many people show up?
No, we definitely care how many people, both because we need to make sure that your membership allows that number of people in your party, and also because, you know, we need to know how many slots you're taking up of our capacity. So yeah, we definitely know. So yeah, there is a spot where you enter the number of guests. I mean, that's represented here. Okay. But yeah, we'll see that. I mean, so what I'm trying to show you here is this is geared towards a Salesforce audience, obviously. So, but I could take hours to explain every part of it. But so I'm keeping it at a high level. But at this point right now in the presentation, I'm just trying to give a very high level of what you're about to see. We'll get into the specifics of how it works from the user side once we get to the demo portion.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. So again, here I'm not going to run through this flow. This is a flow in Salesforce. It's a snapshot of the flow, and I will talk high level about how it works. But for anyone who doesn't know, with Salesforce, you have the ability to write code. But one of the things that makes Salesforce very powerful is that you can do amazing things without writing any code at all. You can do it as a drag and drop interface where you can make these flows. You can have automation, send out emails, validations to check off sort of things, and you don't have to write any code. So this entire thing we're going to see was built without any code at all. So here is a picture of what our community looks like. So this is very similar to what Jennifer was just going through. We have the ability for members and some different types of constituents to make reservations. We kept it very simple. You can get very detailed on setting up your community and make it so that it completely mirrors your website and looks like it's an extension of your website. We didn't want to put all that overhead in because, again, we didn't know how long we were going to keep this portal active. Of course, it's already been active now for 7 or 8 months, but I had to spin it up very quickly. So we could use the very standard Salesforce template and just put our colors and some logos, things like that. So here's how the reservation process works. You're going to start on our homepage, and we're going to explain our COVID procedures. That's on our website, aqua.org. And then from there, it's going to give you a link, which is going to have you navigate to the Salesforce community, which is where you're going to be able to select your entry time and make your reservation. And then you're going to receive a confirmation. And then ultimately, either via printed out or on your mobile device, generally, you're going to give your confirmation number. And that's what's going to allow our guest services folks to know that you have a valid reservation. So what we're trying to accomplish here is let the system enforce all of the rules regarding, are you eligible to make a reservation? How many people you can bring? Is there enough capacity for your party? And then at the door, once you have a properly formatted confirmation number, our guest services folks will know that you've made a valid reservation without having to check any of those things, so they can go ahead and just let you in right away. All right, so leveraging the platform. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the features that we used, and this is more for a Salesforce audience that is more familiar with some of these things. But we use flows heavily. So in automation, we use flows, and these are some examples, and we'll get a little more detail into them in a minute. We also use some workflow to send some emails and to make some field updates. That's a different workflow, and flows are two different Salesforce automations. You could do it all in flows, but for some of the simple stuff, workflow is just quicker and easier to do. On the configuration side, we use some custom metadata, which is, for our case here, we're using it to control the number of days from today that a user can make a reservation. We weren't sure whether we wanted them to be able to only make it a couple days or a month in advance. And I needed the ability to be able to change that quickly. So rather than embed or hard code that information in anything, basically the custom metadata serves as a variable that I can change at any moment, and it will automatically update everything to whatever number of days that I want. Custom permissions is another example where I have validation rules, which are exactly what they sound like. And basically what that does is it prevents folks from making reservations that exceed the capacity. So there's a validation rules, a check that says, this is the number of reservations that have been made for this time slot. This is the capacity for that time slot. Don't allow a new reservation if it exceeds the capacity. So I used the custom permission because I wanted to make some exceptions to that. And one of them actually is the guest user, which is the public user who's making the reservation. And that's because what I really didn't want is I didn't want two people, and we've had it happen a couple of times. I don't want two people to be trying to make a reservation for the same time slot at the exact same time and have one of them be able to make the reservation, and then a fraction of a second or a second or two later, have the other person suddenly get an error because even though we told them the time slot was available, now it's not. So I wanted to create an exception so that they could allow it. Because honestly, we also know that because the members aren't paying anything additional to make these reservations, we know that not 100% of them are going to show. So we have a little bit of cushion in there that if we are over slightly, we're okay. And the flow actually, which we'll see in a sec, controls which time slots are available. So it's not like I'm going to keep letting people make reservations at that time slot past the sellout capacity. It's not going to be available as an option if you come 5 minutes from now. I'm only worried about people that were doing it simultaneously. And then I use the unique attribute on some fields. And this is mostly as a check from me to make sure that I don't inadvertently create 2 time slots that are at the same time or have 2 different records that represent the same date, just so that I don't do something foolish like that and suddenly allow 2 different capacities to be happening at the same time. This unique would only be visible for me really as an admin who was entering things. And we also use the community feature. So this is a shot of the full community where all the different types of constituents can make reservations. We're using the community to host the flows, to host the menu navigation, and to host the nice images. Like I said, in the grand scheme of the things that you can do with a community, this is very simple, but it serves our purpose as well. And also, very importantly, we created a public or what they call guest user. It's referred to as both sometimes. In general, communities are set up so that you can allow your customers or your partners or someone like that log in, and they have a unique username and password that allows you to be able to show some more secure information on your community that you don't want everyone to see. If you give someone a username and password, you can make sure that they can only see their own account or their own information or update their own things. We didn't go with that for 2 reasons. One, there's a lot of a cost with that. You have to buy licenses for everyone. But also, people aren't going to have usernames and passwords. And we have, I think, like 28 or 29,000 members. So we weren't in the position that we were going to set that up that quickly. We didn't want to have that cost. And quite frankly, people tend not to remember them. So since they're really only going to be pushing information into our system, the only validation that we're working with is their own membership number. And you'll see some of the things that we did to make it so that we don't accidentally expose anything. And then finally, we have Lightning app pages, this is on the internal side for our customer, like our customer service folks. So we also have a number where you can call in if you don't have a computer or you have troubles, and you can have them help you make the reservation. This is just want to show you here that you can show lists and charts and flows and all kinds of things inside of your organization on one page to help your internal users be able to manage things a little bit better. Okay, so now here's where I want to go over to the demo. Okay, so here is the real community that we have. If I were to start on our aqua.org page, I could navigate over to that by hitting reserve your time. It would go ahead and would launch us to the community. The one thing I did notice when I set up the sandbox that I didn't think about is that the images in the community do not come over in the sandbox. So I'm going to close this so I don't accidentally use the wrong thing. But I wanted to show you that it can look, kind of nice. But on the one I want to use here is this is a sandbox version of the same site. So this way I can manipulate and play with data, but the images just aren't there. No big thing. Again, there's an image on this side too. Anyway, so this is the flow. So basically, this is how we validate members, how they can come in and we can know that they're a member, they're an active member, is every member has a membership number. I mean, they're going to need their card to get scanned when they get to the door anyway. Members are used to having their membership card. It's a requirement. Of course, we could look it up. This is where we have the, a phone number if you need to call someone. But basically, you're going to put in your membership number. And here, I just made up a very simple one for our sandbox. So it's not a real membership number. And then we ask you to authenticate with your zip code. And this is just to help mitigate. We don't want people guessing at other people's membership numbers and trying to use them. So you have to know the zip code that's on file for your membership. So if I don't do this right, for example, and I hit next, it's going to tell me that I didn't do it, that it didn't find my membership, and it's going to tell you that you can call our service desk and they'll help you that way. But if I do it with the right information, it looks up my membership and immediately comes back and it tells me right here what level membership that I have, how many guests I'm allowed to have. We have a little message about guests under 3 don't require a separate reservation. And also here it tells me how far in advance I can make the reservation. Again, this is coming from, it's 10 days from today, so it's going to be different every day. But I come in here now and ask me, okay, what day do I want to come and how big is my party? Again, if I were to choose, I got the Zoom thing in the way here. Let me get rid of that. I can figure that how to do that. All right. So if I were to choose past February 4th, go to February 5th, for example, and say I'm going to be 2 people, it's going to give me an error there and tell me that I can't select the date after February 4th. So if I come back and let's say we're going to go ahead, we're going to come this weekend for 2 people. So now it goes and it looks at the availability for January 31st. So I've already validated the number of the membership exists and the number of people that I can bring, and I stayed within those parameters. And now it tells me all of the time slots that I have available for 2 people. So if I had entered, 6 people, for example, it might give me a different. In fact, it does give me a different set of time slots because not every time slot has 6 people available. So if I come in here and say I want to come at 3:30, and then it reminds you again about our COVID procedures and gives a link to them and asks you to agree to those COVID procedures. And then another thing that we did here for sort of security is that we're going to email the person that we have on file for this membership, but we don't want to expose that just in case somebody, we don't want to, it's private information, so we don't want to expose it, but it should be enough information that would let you know if that's the email address we already have for you. Again, if you knew the email address, then you would know this was the right email address. But in the case of a spouse or a child, or maybe that email is bad or something like that, you're going to want to get the email confirmation. So we give you the ability to go ahead and enter another email address if you want. But we're always going to send the confirmation to the email that we have on file and potentially to a second address. And this is, again, just to highlight that we're notifying the membership owner, and that they're going to be available. Theoretically, if someone was trying to use someone else's membership, they would let us know that I don't know this person. To my knowledge, we have not had that happen at all, but that was just this security thing we did. And then we hit next. Here we go. We come back and it gives me the confirmation number. It's emailed me this confirmation number. So I have that for when I come later. Again, it tells me when my visit is scheduled, the number of guests. If I have any questions, I'll explain this confirmation number in a little bit. I'm going to go to the inside of the org now. So if I come over to here and I look at reservations, here we go. This is the reservation that I just made. I created household earlier. So demo members is my name, the member's name. So again, the account information, the contact and the account information already exists in our system. That's what we looked up on the first screen with the flow. Excuse me. So I have this filtered so I can see the reservation that I have. I could come in here and I could look at it. I can see all those details. I can see here's the email that was originally presented. Here's the email that I entered. Here's the program that they're coming in under, the reservation date, all that sort of stuff. You will see on here, I gave the ability to also cancel. That's something that we want people to be able to do. Again, we know that folks are going to make reservations and then not be able to come, so we encourage them to cancel. We also have some automation so that the night before the visit, we'll send them an email to remind them that they're scheduled, and we'll encourage them to cancel if they're not going to attend. And that is all about making sure that if they're not going to use their allocation, that we give it back to other folks as possibility. Let's see, what else do we have here on the inside? So the way that this works here is here's all the different dates. So I have basically one record for every day. So these are the days that are available for reservation. So I have a formula that is basically checking whether or not this day is available, and it's based on that 10-day setup that we said that we stored in the custom metadata. And then if I click on any given day, so let me click on today, I can see all the different time slots that we have under this day. An easier view over here, if I come over here and look at the today view, I can see right here all the different time slots we have for today. But what's key here is that I didn't want people to be able to make reservations for earlier today. So I have another formula that is not only looking at the availability. The flow doesn't only look at the availability to see if there is availability. As you can see, like earlier today, we sold out some of these time slots. It's actually looking at the clock, and it's saying, I don't want to allow people to enter. It's actually funny because it's 4:30 now. So if I refresh this, we should see the 4 o'clock go away. So when you have, say, for a 4 o'clock reservation, you have between 4 and 4:30 to enter. Okay, so that's the time period you have. So if I refresh this, I think the checkbox would go away at 4 o'clock. It would, because it's now 4:30. So you can no longer make reservations for that 4 o'clock time slot for today. And in fact, you're on our last time slot of the day, which is 4:30. Let me click over into the flows. So this is a little more of a technical part of what we did here. This right here is the screen that the flow here that we saw, the member, this reservation right here, this flow, this is the back end of it. This is what was built. Again, I'm not going to walk through all of this, but if you have any specific questions, let me know. But in general, the blue are the screens. So these are what the user is going to see. The pink are basically database actions. That's either looking up data or creating data or editing data. And then the orange are sort of flow decision points where it decides to go here or go there. So the first screen that we see here is, again, where you enter your information. This is how you build the screen. So it's all drag and drop, all configuration. The reason this loops around is because it looks to see if it found your membership. That's the first thing it does. It takes this information, looks to see if it can find your membership, and then it goes right here to decision. If it does not find your membership, it goes back to that screen again, and it shows you the error message that says it didn't find your reservation. If it does, it goes over to this screen. This here we'll talk about in a minute. So this screen is where you enter the date. This is the visit date and the party size. One of the things we wanted to do here too, our membership director asked us to not allow the same membership to make more than one reservation on the same day. So you can make a reservation every day if you want, but you can't make more than one reservation on the same day. Again, because we were concerned that people might want to change their time and make a second reservation and not cancel the first reservation. So this checks to see if you already have a reservation on that day. And if you do, it tells you that you can't and asks you if you'd like to cancel the existing reservation. If you don't have one, which is most of the time, of course, it goes over here. This is where it shows you what time slots. It's going to calculate whether there's a time slot available or not. That's right here. It's going to calculate based on the date you've entered and the party size that you've entered, if there is a time slot available. If there isn't, it's going to kick you back to the screen and say, we're sorry, there's no time slots for that party size this day. But if there is, that's where it's going to ask you, it's going to give you the ability to choose the time slot. And then it's going to ask you for the email, and then it's going to make your reservation, and it's going to, after it makes the reservation, it basically pulls back up the reservation. So it should show you the details about the reservation on the confirmation screen. So you end up with let me get back to the inside here. Where am I? Oh, shoot, there we go. If I go back to the reservation, This is where you can see the confirmation number. So I tried to make this look random so that people didn't necessarily know what it represented. But the reality is it actually tells the guest services folks everything you need to know about your reservation. The first 3 characters are random. It's just pulling based on this auto number of the internal reservation record ID that you have. But then the next 3 are the times. So 15, it's military time. So 15:3 is 3:30. So it's taking the beginning of military time to show you that. So we know that that's a 3:30 reservation. It's on the 31st of the month. Since we're only allowing them 10 days in advance anyway, I know that it's what month it is. It's the current month. It's, you know, or if we get to February, it's going to be, you know, February, but it's not going to be previous months or future months. It tells us which program you've entered under and how many guests are in your party. So we basically, so if someone shows up and they say, oh, I made a reservation for 20. Well, no, you made a reservation for 6. And by showing the confirmation number, our guest services folks can see that. And if you have more guests than your reservation confirmation number calls for, you know, we will send you to the will call desk and we'll try to work out and get you in when we can. So this is a formula that is calculating all that. The idea is at the membership number, which if I go over to this screen, I think, and I show you the email, this is what you get essentially in your email. So you just have to show this on your phone, and you know, it basically keeps the line moving very quickly. And then there's also the cancellation flow. What's interesting here, and you'll notice that this link, even though I'm in the sandbox, this link is sort of hard coded to show the production cancellation. So what I need to do here is I need to take the prefix away from the production and make it the sandbox. So if I were to click that link, and that link is also, again, in the email right here, it basically, by clicking that link, it will take you directly to the ability to cancel. So all it does is tells you what kind it is and the date, and then you can go ahead and hit cancel without having to enter anything again. How we do that is because we know the reservation ID because we've served you this information right here. So we know the ID. So we can pass the ID into the URL so that when you click it, it automatically is personalized for your reservation. But if you end up on the screen without the ID, or it's an invalid ID or anything like that, it will just simply ask you, so it's the same flow, the same page, it will just ask you if you want to, if you can enter the confirmation number. And again, if you have any problems, you can call our phone number. So we have that. But if I were to come back over here and I were to copy this confirmation number into the cancellation, we'll end up in that same spot that we were already, because now we found the reservation. But we can make it even easier for our guests by just giving them the ability to click the cancellation email. The only thing really to show you on the flow here, this is the cancellation flow. It's a little more involved because it has different programs it's checking for. But the kind of cool thing at the end is, again, we have different flows. So if you were on this page, you can see we have Read the Reef, we have members, we have corporate members, and they all have slightly different processes that they have to enter. What I was happy with that we came up with on this flow was when you get to the end and you've canceled it, and it asks you if you want to make another reservation, I don't have to ask you what kind of reservation you want to make. I'm assuming that you want to make the same kind of reservation that you already made. So if you made a Read the Reef reservation, you want to go back to that. If you made a household membership reservation, you want to go back to that. It will automatically, I've already captured that information because I know what it was. I will send you back to the right registration flow without having to ask you that again. So this is what's called a subflow. So you can basically say, okay, at the end of this flow, launch another flow, and it immediately comes back to you. I think that's mostly what we have. I wanted to go over some lessons that I learned in building some of this. So the first thing that I learned, and this scared me because this was late in the development, but I didn't realize this was going to happen. as you can see here, we have all the different time slots that are going to be available. This is a time field in Salesforce. What I learned is that you cannot use a time field as a label for a flow, a record choice, which is what this is. You're basically choosing which record you want. So I ended up being able to make a time formula that will convert the time field into a text field. The real downside to that, theoretically, and we'll see that later in a sec, is when you do something like this and they're no longer time fields, they're text, and you sort them, they're sorted alphanumerically, not chronologically. And then you have a situation where 10 a.m. having a 1 in front of it comes before 9. So that's a problem. So the record choice set does give you the ability to sort by a different field than the label is. So I ended up being able to use that. If I'm sorting by the time slot, but I'm showing the time label. And then when the user selects which time slot they want, they're actually selecting a record ID for that time slot. Again, the user doesn't need to know any of that. Another thing here that I learned is that one of the more Salesforce's flows is like currently the major automation tool that Salesforce has been investing in over the last year or two. And every release, they keep adding more and more features. And one of the very nice features was that the ability to store all fields automatically. So when you get a record in a flow, you do one of these get record elements, you used to have to identify with a variable every field that you want it to return to your flow. And that can be a pain because you can want a lot of fields. And also you don't always know exactly what you want. So you have to go back to the beginning and update it. And it's kind of a pain in the butt. So automatically store all fields is a very handy thing to do. And that's what most people probably would do at this point. But I found a bug or a feature, depending on how you want to define it from a Salesforce perspective, is that the validation rules on the screens don't work unless you've specifically identified a field as a variable, not done one of these all fields. So I was struggling for forever to get the party size that I'm pulling off of the record to enforce that limit. Same with the date. So that's why actually on the flow, we talked about over here, I said I'd skip this, I come back. That's actually what's happening here is even though in the get records, I'm specifying store every field, after I've determined that I found the record and I'm going to show the next screen, I'm actually using an assignment to create those two variables for the date and the maximum party size, because otherwise the validation on the screen doesn't work. It'll just let it go through as though you didn't have any validation. So that was something that Salesforce support helped me figure out, and it was a very easy fix because I thought that was going to be a deal breaker too. Again, I learned putting in the dashboards and charts together that you also can't use a time field as the legend for the chart. What I ended up doing here, because I don't have the option like I do on the flow to sort by one thing but show something else, I ended up making another formula and we put it in military time, because that way it's always going to be in chronological order. Instead of using the AM, PM, the text and the chronological order is the same. For our purposes, it ended up not being a big deal. That is essentially the presentation. Do you have any questions? I'm going to go through anything.
Michael, how long did it take you to develop your app?
I didn't track it like that. I was working on other projects. We went from them contacting me to launching it in about 3 weeks. You know, I was working on some other stuff too. This certainly became the #1 thing that I had to work on. Probably could be a little quicker now. I had to learn a lot about communities and flows, and those GATYAs that I just went through in a lesson learned, they ended up taking an inordinate amount of time, you know, to resolve. But 3 weeks.
Okay. And how many people were you developing? Or just yourself?
Yeah, it was just me. We have a developer, but again, not so much because I didn't want to use the developer, but because I didn't know how quickly things would need to change. Again, in general, using the declarative interface for Salesforce certainly allows things to be accomplished a lot quicker because you don't have to write test code coverage. You don't have to necessarily promote everything from a sandbox. So I wanted to stay away from code. So yeah, so I mean, at this point, our team on the Salesforce side is me and a developer. So I did this entire project.
You did a good job of describing for the feedback on your presentation. You did a really good job of explaining it, the purpose and all that. That was really well done. The only thing that on your first slide you talked about your members.
Constituents?
Yeah, I would probably just say your, no, what's the difference between members and?
I'm not sure which one you're talking about.
No, that you were right in the second bullet, benefits needed.
Oh yeah, okay. So, so I thought about whether to include this or not. Like, so we have those other programs like the Read the Reef program and the corporate members, and they're authenticated a slightly different way. So, if we were to show over here, Read the Reef, for example, what that is it's a program for the local library where if the kids go and they read a certain number of books in a certain category in a certain amount of time, the library gives them a bookmark, and that has a code on it. And then that is the code that they would use. So I don't have any active codes prepared in the sandbox. But,
okay, that's fine.
But basically, it's the same. It's kind of the same basic mechanism, except that rather than validating against the membership, it validates against the codes and determines whether or not the code is still active. Then there's different limitations. Like there's certain dates, heavy traffic dates, for example, that they're not allowed to come because they're basically going to be sold out for members in general admission. So like inside of the setup, we have, if you look here, I think I have one. So there's a Read the Reef blackout date. So I can indicate whether like that date or that time slot is going to be blacked out from Read the Reef. So it's got some different logic in getting which time slots are available and that kind of stuff. And it's sort of the same with corporate members. The corporate members aren't going to know their pass number necessarily because they might not have it, because someone at their office administrator is going to have it. So there's some other ways that they can validate it through the email addresses and
things. So Michael, my name is Shanti Plani. I have lots of questions for you, but then I make sure I won't ask all the questions. But it's very interesting for me too. So number one, are you guys using, I work for a nonprofit. I am from Chicago, and Lincoln Park Zoo is what I work for. I'm trying to install Salesforce, implement Salesforce, and it is just being a problem for us. But then that's why I'm curious. For you, you said 3 weeks, and I cannot believe it's just 3 weeks. Amazing. I was like, can you just come to Chicago?
Well, I mean, I guess I should, the full background. I've worked as a Salesforce consultant before. I've been doing Salesforce work for 7 or 8 years. I have a handful of certifications. So, I've not done this kind of thing exactly before. I've done a lot of similar things. So, it's going to be different if you're a novice or you're just getting started or that kind of stuff for sure. Yeah. I mean,
definitely. And I kind of figured that you have worked on it the way that you explained everything technically. And what we are trying to do for the Lincoln Park Zoo is we use Eventbrite for event planning, scheduling. And it's not just, we do the capacity planning too. The Eventbrite does it for us. But then what I'm trying to do is integrate Eventbrite to Salesforce so that we have everything in Salesforce. And to do that, and the annual cost for it, my gosh, it's about like $6,000, $7,000 or something, more than that. Let's just say 10. And that is, do you think that is an overkill because we are using a vendor to do the integration? I mean, it's just, I don't know, it may be a dumb question to ask without giving the whole background of it, but this is what we're working on.
I mean, the answer to that question becomes a lot of, it depends. You know, I mean, I'm happy to, I'll be happy to provide you my contact information, and we can have a more detailed conversation if you'd like. Happy to do that.
I would love that. I would love that. Yeah.
But so we didn't use Eventbrite in part because we knew we could do it in-house, and we were, you know, I mean, we were closed for months. I mean, just like a lot of places were. So certainly we didn't have any extra money at all to spend to build something that we didn't know if it was going to be a long-term thing or it was going to be, you know, weeks or a couple months that we needed it. So, you know, we definitely, free was the number one priority if we could. And again, we have Salesforce and we spend a good amount of money on Salesforce. So it's not like Salesforce is free, but adding this was no additional cost. And we didn't use any outside vendors because we had me to do it inside. We've toyed with Eventbrite for other things, not for this reservation thing, but really for true events that we have.
Right.
A nice use of something like that is that Eventbrite will help you market, because it'll cross promote on other similar types of things, you know, so it helps you pull in a wider audience sometimes. So that's one thing to look at. But I would say no, in general. As a matter of fact, we have been working on our own events module. We don't use Eventbrite. We just have stuff on our website. But we wanted to get a more robust app that makes it sort of scalable. So, I mean, I could talk to you a lot about the kinds of things that we'd want. We stayed away from Eventbrite. The only benefit that we saw was the cross promotion, and that is nice, but at the expense and also the inability for us to completely configure what we wanted was reasons why we decided to go with a pure Salesforce solution.
That's awesome. How long have you guys been having Salesforce, and is it NPSP that you're using?
Yes, it is NPSP, which is the nonprofit
Success Pack.
Success Pack now, right? It used to be Starter Pack. Yes. So for anyone who doesn't know, that helps convert some of the sales-oriented modules that are standard in Salesforce to something a nonprofit organization would want, with donations and that kind of stuff. Yes, we do have that. We've had it for, I want to say, 6 years. The National Program had it before I joined. So although, you know, they set it up for that purpose, for just the constituent management, the donations and that sort of stuff. We had some folks that thought we could do more with Salesforce, which is actually how I ended up being in the organization. Because we do a lot of things throughout the organization that have nothing to, this ties into our customers, but we have a lot of applications that don't have anything to do with customers, as far as like our security checks, life support services checks, I mean, a lot of back office features, HR features, things like that.
Okay, I'm gonna have to cut that conversation. We're a little over. I only need around 2 or 3 minutes to end this meeting, but is there any, I'll give you 2 more minutes for questions. Does anybody else have any questions for Michael? Okay, then
Michael, just a comment, Michael, great job. And I, you know, not being a technical, having a technical background, I was able to kind of keep following, and I did enjoy your flow diagrams. I know that's a technology embedded in Salesforce, but I felt that really helped from a marketing user experience perspective. We can really kind of follow along with what your user is supposed to be experiencing as you go through the reservation system. So thanks for that.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for that feedback. I appreciate that. I did just post my email in the chat. If anyone wants to follow up with me, I'll be happy to get on a Zoom call with someone, or just chat back and forth via email too, if you want.
Okay, so Michael, can you stop sharing, or you have already?
I did, yeah.
Okay, sharing. Thanks. Let me pick the right desktop. Does everybody see my screen? Does everybody see the thank you screen?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So thank you, Jennifer and Michael. You both had really, really great presentations. And
Evan, we see your to-do list as well.
Oh,
now, just so you know.
Oh, okay, that's okay. I don't know.
Just in case there's information there you don't
no,
want to.
No, I don't think so. I was just preparing for an exam, and I look at this, Lions visit taggers. I'll tell you about that some other time. Anyways, so our future meetings, this is really interesting. So we have a meeting scheduled for February the 17th, 12 o'clock to 2 o'clock. Is that right, you? You, Wang? Are you still on the phone? No, okay.
Yeah, it's correct. Yeah.
Okay, good. And so you is going to be running that meeting, and he's going to be talking about, somebody's going to be talking about customization, customable roll-up summary formulas or roll-up formulas, and Salesforce DX, which is a conference. So it'll be specific for the Salesforce administrators. And then on March the 26th, that's the meeting I'm going to be running. And I do have a question for you guys. I seen this blog from a guy named Brandon Wang, who's a Salesforce consultant. And his blog was really good. I was really impressed with it. And so I ended up connecting with him through LinkedIn, and I asked him if I could talk to him about potentially coming on to give a presentation at one of our meetings. And he has agreed to the March 26th meeting. So his blog was about writing the Salesforce consultant exam. So for example, if I wanted to write the Salesforce cloud exam or the service cloud consulting exam. So that's his blog, and he can give us a presentation on that. Or he said he would also be willing to take a sales or service or community cloud feature that a lot of people probably don't know they exist right there, and give a presentation about that. So what I'd like to do is just sort of get a hands up idea of whether you would rather see a presentation on how do you prepare for a consultant exam, or whether you'd rather see a presentation on a feature that that he can go through and do a deep dive on. So does anybody, if you want to just take your mute off, if you can just sort of give me a or B option, and then at least I know, you know, where I can, because I need to basically confirm, okay, what presentation should you prepare for? So if anybody wants to pipe up, I really appreciate some feedback on that. No feedback at all.
You have some in chat, Kevin, but taking in consideration that user group is mostly newbies and medium kind of skilled Salesforce members, I think exposing features that they don't know about, bringing more value than going for consultant exam, because there is other exams that they need to do first as prerequisite to consultant. Like
that was my gut reaction, and that's what I told them, but I wanted to see if anybody else have any input on that. Okay, then I'm going to discuss with him on some features. Then I was thinking either something like the forecasting module, collaborative forecasting module, which I'm sure a lot of people don't have turned on or not using, and maybe if they see something like that, they say, you know what, I could also use that in our org, and there's a little feature that you can turn on and start using. So if you have a feature that you would like to know about, if you'd send me an email this week, then I'll be talking to them next week, and then I can then decide on which feature that we would like him to talk about. Community is his number one level of area of expertise. So for him to do something on community would take him no time at all. But he's offered to do either the sales or service cloud. Because he's a real goal ganger. He's a really young guy, and he's really excited to be able to he was really actually excited to be asked to give a presentation at a user group meeting. So that was really neat. Anyway, so that's the presentation on March. And then I have another potential speaker lined up for the second topic. But if there's any other topics that you guys would like, please send an email to us or through the community page and just comment on the community page. And then the 4 or 5 Salesforce co-leaders get those comments, and we can proceed on finding some speakers. And then we plan to have a meeting on April 21st. Again, the time slot is the 12 to 2 p.m. But these are just tentative right now. Does anybody else have any questions before we sign off here? Well, if that's the case, thank you very much for attending. And for the Algonquin students, I hope that this was helping you to see, what's available and the technology. And so something, hopefully some of you would be really excited to look at this. Using the Trailhead will allow you to be able to take little bite-sized pieces and see if this is something that you would like to do in your career, because there's definitely lots of Salesforce jobs that are available today and will be in the future. Anyways, thank you very much for everybody coming, and we hope to see you at the February the 17th meeting.
Thanks, Kevin. Thanks, everybody.
Kevin, thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Have a good night.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, bye.
I'm gonna, by the way, I'm gonna leave the meeting open. If somebody wanted to have a quick discussion with somebody else, I'll leave it open for around 10 minutes, and then you can go ahead and ask each other questions, or do you have questions for myself?
Sounds good, Ken. I'm going to be here. You need support.
Nash is the expert. He's the top-notch expert.
Yeah, you know just how much you don't know, Ken.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, it was a great meeting. I think it was relevant for audience, and they get the idea, hopefully,
yeah,
to join.
So there's a few guys left over here. Did anybody have any questions?
Actually, just curious, you mentioned a few minutes ago that there is a lot of opportunity for Salesforce. You met here in Ottawa or in Toronto or in the state? Everywhere.
If you're looking for a job and you just do a search for Salesforce in the job boards, you'll find there's tons of opportunities. And with COVID, it's actually probably easier to find a job now anywhere in the world, because you don't have to be necessarily working in the city that the job posting is at. I mean, there's a lot of people now getting jobs that are not necessarily in the city you're living in.
One piece of advice is that mostly employers are looking for certifications as one of criteria to consider you for job, because it's hard to judge what you know, what you don't know, and things like that. And this is one of things that you may pursue. It only cost is $200 for you to take exam. It's not big investment. Everything else is free. How to learn what you're doing and to do something. If you don't have opportunity to work, it's already.
No, the certification's already done. So at least one of them. Okay. Now I've been Googling, trying to see what are the opportunities, and I've been seeing stuff, but not here in Ottawa. So I'll Google better.
You know what? Send me, Claudine, if you send me an email, I'll share some emails that I get on a daily basis. You just have to get into the right
fund silo.
Yeah, there's different I've been doing this for a long time, so I've registered for a number of I don't know what they are called, but I'm on these lists and I get tons and tons of emails for Salesforce positions.
Yeah, and sometimes in our group in success community, local companies post their job opportunities for Salesforce. And I know Anokhe was looking for somebody who is experienced in. Yeah,
that's exactly what I was going to say. There is I think there might be 1 or 2 positions that in the community. So if you post a note on the Ottawa community saying you're looking for an opportunity and you specify, maybe you have your certification, you might find that you might be able to get picked up quite easily.
In the Ottawa community?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll try. Thanks.
Also, Czech government is looking for Salesforce skills. They don't pay top-notch market value, but they are good entrance points for getting better on Salesforce, and then you can move on from there too.
Yeah, hopefully you'll let go of dynamic.
So that first presentation that Jennifer gave.
Yeah, we'll have.
That would really show a lot of initiatives. If you had a portfolio and you laid it out really nicely, people are just going to say, "Wow," because you're distinguishing yourself differently than a lot of other people.
Good, great. So I'll forward you my email as well. Thanks a lot.
No problem.
Have a nice evening.
Yeah, no problem.
Thanks. Bye.
Anybody else have any questions? Okay, then I'm going to close the meeting then, and thanks again, and talk to you later, Nash, okay?
Yeah, thank you, Kevin.
Bye-bye.